there is a truth that will leave anyone who hears it stunned in a bloody battle between two nations. The person who played the role of defending the entire kingdom of England was not the powerful King Henry VIII, but rather his young wife, Catherine of Aragon, the image of a queen bearing the heavy responsibility of the entire nation. With war looming has become one of the most memorable moments of the Tudor dynasty. Welcome back to the Cryptic History. Today, we will explore one of the lesser-known stories yet. One that has the power to change the way we view a woman who is seemingly only associated with a role within the palace. In 1513, when Henry VIII took his army to France to wage war, he left England in a perilous position to the north. Scotland, a longtime ally of France, was waiting for an opportunity to attack. In that moment, instead of appointing a male general to take charge, Henry placed his full trust in Catherine, a woman just in her 20s, entrusted with the responsibility of safeguarding the entire kingdom. Imagine this: the country faces the threat of invasion. The people are panicked and the court is anxious. And Catherine, a young queen, steps forward unafraid. She issues orders. She calls for action. She transforms the weakness, often attributed to women, into strength, to reassure the entire nation. Behind her gentle beauty is a steel spirit. And that is the mystery that makes the story of the Battle of Flodden an unforgettable chapter in history. In 1513, Europe was a chessboard of power, where kings continually schemed and killed to assert their dominance. Henry VIII, in his thirst for fame and desire to make his mark, decided to lead his army across the sea to France. For him, this was an opportunity to prove that England was no longer a weak kingdom, that but one, strong enough to stand shoulder to shoulder with the great powers of the continent. But when the king left, the country was immediately put in a perilous position. To the north, Scotland, a longtime ally of France, awaited that opportunity like a raised sword, ready to strike in that tense situation. No one expected that the responsibility for maintaining the kingdom's borders would fall to a woman. Catherine of Aragon, the young queen, was faced with a situation that many men might have shrunk from, but instead of fear, she stepped forward and took on the leadership role, as if it were the most natural thing in the world. No longer was she the image of a queen, hidden behind the throne. Catherine now became the spiritual pillar for both the court and the people. Imagine this: the country is on the brink of war, and all eyes are on one woman. That burden could crush anyone, but for Catherine, it became her motivation. She not only held the faith of the nation, but also sparked a sense of pride among the people that they were being led by a queen with enough courage and intellect to face the storm. And from here, the story leads to one of the most heroic battles in Tudor history on September 9th, 1513. A gray sky enveloped the land of Flodden Field, where two powerful armies faced off. In front was King James IV of Scotland, with tens of thousands of soldiers full of vigor. He believed this was a golden opportunity to strike directly at England, secure a glorious victory, and assert the strength of his people. In front of him was the smaller English army, about 26,000 men led by Earl Surrey. But in crucial moments, numbers do not always lead to victory. The terrain of Flodden did not favor Scotland. The muddy rain and steep land made the long pikes, the weapon expected to crush the enemy, awkward and disadvantageous. Meanwhile, the English, quicker with short swords and bows, advanced step by step, attacking from the hillside. The sound of swords clashing, the shouts of battle, the smoke of gunpowder, and the smell of blood mixed together, turning the field into a sea of chaos. In the midst of a gunfire, James IV charged like a true warrior, leading his men with courage. But his bravery could not change the outcome. As the sun began to set, the result of the battle was clear. The King of Scotland fell in the battlefield, and thousands of his soldiers and nobles lay there. It was the most disastrous defeat in Scottish history. A wound not only military, but also spiritual. Catherine of Aragon did not take up a sword on the battlefield, but the victory at Flodden bears her indelible mark. When Henry VIII was absent, she shouldered the greatest responsibility, keeping the country from collapsing. That woman, just in her 20s, stood before the court, ordered the mobilization of soldiers, encouraged loyalty, and instilled the belief that England could overcome this challenge. Not everyone has the courage to do this, especially when all eyes are on her with doubt. But Catherine was not afraid. She turned pressure into strength, transforming fear into a flame that urged the army and the people to unite. After the news of the victory spread, Catherine did not choose silence or merely rejoice. In the palace, she had the blood-stained armor of King James IV, sent to Henry VIII in France. It was not just a war trophy, but a declaration. Although she did not lead the army directly, she had successfully protected England. This act was both symbolic and demonstrated sharp political wisdom, helping elevate the position of the Tudor dynasty on the international stage. What is admirable is that Catherine never took credit for the victory. She remained humble, allowing the triumph to be remembered as a collective achievement of the entire nation. But history cannot forget. Without her quiet yet determined leadership, England might have faced another tragedy. Catherine proved that sometimes a woman can become the strongest wall of an entire kingdom. The Battle of Flodden not only ended with the blood and tears of thousands of Scottish soldiers, but it also left meanings far beyond the war. For Scotland, it was a horrifying shock. They lost a king, the elite noble class, and their pride on the battlefield. It was a wound not easily healed, a pain that haunted many generations to come. But for England, this victory became a strong affirmation. The Tudor dynasty was strong enough to stand firm against the greatest dangers, capable of protecting its existence In a turbulent Europe, and above all, the Battle of Flodden highlighted the image of Catherine of Aragon. In the flow of history, she is often remembered as a queen, abandoned by her husband, an unfortunate woman in her marriage to Henry VIII. But looking back at that moment, we see an entirely different face. A leader full of courage, a heart unshaken by adversity. A woman who dared to take on a responsibility that, by tradition, only men would have assumed. The lesson left behind by that battle is not just for the Tudor era, but for all of us today. That strength does not lie in gender or status, but in courage and the ability to face challenges. When pushed into adversity, you can fall, but you can also rise and shine. Catherine chose the second path, and because of that, her name is still remembered to this day. The Battle of Flodden in 1513 ended not only with the victory of the English, but also with the birth of a symbol. In that historical moment, Catherine of Aragon stepped out of the shadow of a typical queen to become a figure that made the entire nation hold its head high. She did not need to don armor for battle, nor did she need to wield a sword on the battlefield, but the power she radiated protected an entire kingdom. And it is that quiet strength. That is what makes Catherine's name resonate to this day. Looking back at this story, we realize that history is not only written by kings or generals who lead armies. Sometimes it is shaped by those who seem weak, but possess unbreakable will. Catherine did not fight with weapons. She fought with faith and the ability to inspire unity. That is what made one of the most significant victories of the Tudor dynasty. And now the question for all of us: does Catherine of Aragon deserve to be considered one of the greatest leaders of the Tudor family? Leave your thoughts. For it is this very debate that will make history come alive and become more relatable. Thank you for following until the end. And if this story moved you, don't forget to support the Cryptic History to continue exploring mysteries, battles, and figures who shaped an entire era. This is just the beginning, and many surprising stories await you ahead.